This is the northern end of Pattaya, and this is where Tak's gym is. His gym is called Chor Nateetong, and Tak is I'll call him an ex-fighter. He does occasionally take a fight still. He's 48 years old, so he doesn't fight often, but he's a femur-style fighter. He's very evasive and tricky and smart and frustrating, so he's able to keep fighting at his age, and he's still an incredible showman. So this is just the street leading to his gym. You pull off of the main highway, Sukhumvit, and go down this little soi, is what they call them in Thai. It means like a residential street. And it's just, you get off the main street and all of a sudden you're just in this little tiny street area. And where his gym is actually located actually feels like it's just kind of in the jungle because he's got all this beautiful green. That's the sign for his gym right there on the corner. He runs the gym with his wife, and they've got a few kids. I think they're all teenagers now. I used to come to Tak's gym when I first came to Pattaya 5 years ago, just to get some sparring in with him. So I would train at my gym, Petrungrung, and then I would go and spar with Tak. And he's so frustrating. He's so, like I said, tricky and evasive and femur. And it was really, really difficult at the time with like where I was mentally and even skill-wise. You can see all the green and beautiful in his gym there. So it was cool coming back 5 years later with the experience and kind of changes that I have personally working with him again. But I was excited to get him in the Muay Thai Library because his style is a beautiful form of Muay Thai that is loved in Thailand. He's very exciting to watch. Femur fighters are very exciting to watch. And he's actually quite good at breaking it down into the pieces that allow you to be able to train it, which is not always the case. You can see even just in the way that Tak holds pads what his kind of attitude is. He's like, one of the things about femur style fighting is you look completely bored by your opponent all the time, like you cannot even get to me kind of thing. And he performs that all the time as part of his cockiness in a really kind of wonderful way. He's just starting out holding pads for me, and you can see that he's kicking me back to get a feeling for what my responses and timing is, and he wants me to float this block. This is so Tak's personality. He showed me what to do, and when I did it, he kicked my opposite side. Like, he's always showing that he can outsmart whatever is happening, but he's showing how when you float that block, you can actually block on either side. So it's not about, like, I missed blocking because you went to the other side. You can cross block while you float that block in the air after the kick. But the key to his style, really the key to any style, but really important for how I was trying to work out what he was teaching me, is that balance is really, really important. He's feeling out distance here. So what he's calling for is all about me feeling how I can kind of keep my pace moving forward and keep attacking. He made a big deal about this, about really twisting my foot to the outside of my hip. So your leg is actually almost horizontal on this knee. That's an exaggerated version of the angled knee that I've learned from a few other trainers, but his is really, really pointed to the side, which is kind of amazing. I loved this. You switch stance, you actually walk backwards into southpaw, but you throw your lead hook as the person's coming towards you. If you want to see a lot of tracking the open side and stepping back into an attack, Karahat, who's in the Muay Thai Library, does a lot of that. He switches stance, but that's what Tak is teaching me here. How you step back as the opponent's coming in and throw that lead hook, so you're firing a shot while they're following you, and it's becoming their open side by how they're stepping forward. Here he's teaching me some pivoting. So basically you can keep close to your opponent all the time as long as you pivot tight. You can hear the rain is starting. There was this massive rainstorm while we were training. So it's going to drown out the sound if you guys have any background sound at all. It was really beautiful though. So here what he's teaching me though is how to not fall forward on my strikes. I was making a big point about balance. When you throw your strike, you want to be on balance so that you can hold it at the end for that floating block. But then you also have to maintain that balance so that you can strike out of it as well. See how he's having me teep out of the float? If you're kneeing and like falling into your opponent, if you're not on balance, then you really have shot your one shot and you're done. His whole point about balance is being able to continue on with all of the different strikes that are available from that distance. Here's another reason to kind of angle your foot to the outside. I'm blocking his knee, but it's the same angle I would be using if I were kneeing him. So he's showing me how, at a close range, while someone is coming in with knees, you just block with your knee. Look at his balance as he comes off of things. Watching his weight transfer as he's holding pads is really instructive of how he moves around as a fighter as well. He's making a point here about stepping outside the opponent's foot. I was stepping either inside his stance, which is really not good, or directly kind of to his foot, but it was actually cutting off the power of my kick. So he wants me to step outside his stance, basically for everything. That's just a talk personality thing to show you what he's capable of doing. He made me block and then he hooked my foot and pulled it out from under me. I'm laughing to Kevin because I'm like, I remember this. Like, I remember coming and sparring with him and he always had the next thing to mess with me. It's a little bit of a look around the gym while we're taking a water break. The rain was coming down crazy and he has this aluminum roof, so it was just really loud. And then he's got all this beautiful green jungle behind. At the time that I came and trained with him 5 years ago, he was the trainer of a girl that I had fought. So I was training with my opponent's trainer. And in Thailand, that's not that big a deal. People are very like chill about things like that. But I think that the years since I'm not fighting anybody he's training has also improved what we're able to work on in this. That's his wife in the blue that just brought him some water. Talks English is really good. If you come and train at his gym, his English is really, really good. He also has experience with lots of French students, so he might have some French as well. Oh, look at that rhythm. He has a very relaxed guard. He's actually naturally southpaw, but he's standing orthodox for me to hold pads. But you'll see sometimes when he walks into southpaw how it just kind of like all moves together. He's able to switch stance, but is naturally southpaw. See how he like holds for the hands and then he wants the kick to come out of the same rhythm? The interruption in my rhythm is just being... See, he tried to do the same thing and it didn't work that time because I didn't get his tenth. You can see in his rhythms and how he like times things, how he does not break his rhythm for his strikes, and he's trying to feel out where my like holes and stutters are. There he was trying to trip me again and I used the teep to push him off. So here you're like faking a kick, or from the block you can teep someone while they're coming to kick your block. So it's the same thing as floating the block. You can turn your strike into something else. You can make it look like your kick is a kick and then you teep, or as you're floating the block, if they end up not kicking the way that you want to, if you're on the inside, you can teep them, which is actually a really good way to knock someone back while they're trying to kick you because they're on one leg. See how he's batting the guard down a little bit on that pivot? This is a really good way to slightly off-balance your opponent while you're moving into a blind spot, which kind of guarantees your strike is going to land. He's trying to get me to do what he was having me do a few minutes ago with that step back and lead hook. So he's like working it into the general rhythms and feeling when your opponent's coming forward or backward, how you're able to strike going forward and backward either way. So I'm kicking his front leg on the inside, and I'm asking whether I need to step outside very much for that. And he's like, not very much, because you're not like soccer punting it. You're just kind of tagging it. See how his foot just kind of like stutter steps over? But he's not taking a big leap on it. I'm taking actually a much bigger step than he does. His flows out of his moving forward. But see how he's holding for high and low? So it goes from the leg to a punch, back to the leg to a punch. So it's just high, low, all the time. This is how, as a female fighter, you're doing high volume striking, but you're not like a super forward Muay Book. Like you're not coming forward with heavy strikes. You're coming forward with a lot of annoying strikes and snuffing everything. See how he's snuffing? He's having me snuff his knees. If I had a Dern fighter, that's someone who's coming forward, I'd basically just be blocking all of their attempts to come in like this, but not having to take a lot of distance away from him. So he's not a backwards fighter in that he's running away all the time. He stays fairly close, but he's always snuffing and annoying the opponent. So see how he blocked and then floated? And then as he steps down off of the block, he's pivoting to the side. So I knee and then float the block for his counter, block it, and then step down on a pivot to hit him while he's off balance and open. This is like Thai combination, right? Like in the West, we learn combinations like 1-2 hook. Thai combination is block, counter, step off. Like that's the kind of blocking, if you want to use like an actor's term. That's the kind of combinations that you learn in Thailand. Oh, that balance is much better there. And see how I'm able to like shove him off because of that balance? This is why balance is so important. Again, it's important for every single style, but it's really important for this style because you're constantly going offense, defense, offense, defense. He wants the head kick. Again, if you go and you watch Karahat in the Muay Thai Library, he teaches this as well. You basically just like rock to the side and head kick. Nam Sak Noi has a really beautiful one as well. It's so relaxed. It allows you to have a head kick that comes out of nowhere. And in the like low high, see how I kicked his leg and then he wants the head kick? You're going super low, super high, but it's really hard for the opponent to track what your body's doing to be able to know that that's what's going to be coming after it. It hides it really, really well. It's like those birds that like drink out of a cup or something. You just kind of like rock your head to the side. See how his head goes way low? It requires practice, and again, it's a lot about balance, but like getting your leg all the way up there takes a lot of kind of just whipping it up in a very relaxed fashion. I could feel that I was like hunching, and a lot of why his style of this like block and return and pivot works is because you keep your body really upright. You cannot be super crouched in Muay Thai and have great defense. It just doesn't work. So being able to move between offense and defense in not a like it's either on or off situation, but like they flow together. It's all about being very upright. So here we're talking a little bit about like rhythm, but when I'm asking about rhythm, I'm usually asking about like where someone's weight is, right? Like if they're front foot or back foot. His weight is constantly shifting. See how if someone's walking, right? You're like walking across the room. You're like, is your weight on your front foot or your back foot? And you're like, both, because you're moving all the time. That's what his weight and footwork is like, in that it's just like pivoting and moving, and he's never like all front foot, all back foot. See how easily he moves from one position to the next? His weight is very much upright. Samart is very much like that as well. Samart is in the Muay Thai Library. So here is like batting down the opponent's guard and elbowing over it. You have to be close for an elbow to land. So that's why you're like pushing the guard out of the way. But you have to be coming forward. You're like getting it out of the way and then coming forward with it. So you can see why, what I was just saying about how you have to be really upright, you can see why the posture of the torso is really important for being able to move in any direction and maintain your balance before and after and during strikes. Look at his balance. See how he can like float the block and then teep my leg and then teep my body. Like there's no point at which he has to put his foot on the ground in order to correct his balance. He's on balance all the time because he's not like overshooting his power on his kick. If you over rotate on a kick, you're done. Like you're at the end of it. This is something that Yod Kun Pan, who's in the Muay Thai Library, he really emphasizes doubling things in order to calibrate that not overturning, because it doesn't allow you to do the next move. Talk is messing with me now where he's like, as I'm like, before I've gained my balance after a strike, he's already trying to twist me. He's showing me that you have to have balance all the way through the entire range of motion on something. I'm asking him about how much weight you have on the foot, whether you're like on the ball of your toe or whether you're flat-footed. And he's like, you want to be all the way on your foot when you're blocking. You don't want to be on your toe when you're blocking. He's showing me why. He's teeping with his heel way up, and he's showing how there's no power. So he puts his foot all the way on the ground, like plants it, and see how his head stays forward when he does that teep right there? He like kind of tucks his chin and keeps his weight to the front on his teep. He does it even on light teeps, like he's just barely touching my leg, but he's got the same posture on it. This is one of the secrets of like watching your favorite fighter. People want to like imitate their moves, and so you like steal their kick or whatever. The way you steal what they're doing is to look at their overall posture and how their balance and like calibration and alignment allows them to do any of the tricks or things that you want to be looking at. If you watch his body and like where his foot, knee, hip, and shoulder are and where his head is usually a little bit in front of everything. This is what allows him to have the balance that he has. He's so balanced. So even though I floated that block in the air, when I decide to come down, I can come down with a strike because, again, having the balance all the way through the range of motion is his main trick, I guess. So here he's having me fake. You like fake a teep, and then you use that to step forward into the knee. Oh, look how much he turns his foot to angle that knee in. And then look at where his left foot is landing so that he can get that right knee in. He's totally right outside of my guard. When you put your foot to the outside of your hip, it's going to angle your knee towards the center of your opponent. If you let your foot drop straight below you, you're really easy to turn and you don't have as much power. Having this whole like coming to the side thing is really important. For that reason. For that reason. I got thrown out of the ring on like the smallest, easiest little trip. See how my foot had to go down first? I had to like kickstand myself for a second before my block could come back up. That's okay. I'm not as like slick as Krutak. But pulling out those slight delays, like shortening them, is much better. My ability to teep him there as he was still trying to get his next move in just makes it very, very hard to fight you. Oh, look at how fast. He's not even teaching me that. He just made a correction and like did this amazing thing. I was like, no, do it this way. It's fucking incredible. Oh, even I threw my right as my like, I'm still coming forward. And after I threw my right, he knows that there's this very brief moment where someone has to realign themselves or like rebalance themselves, and he's always hitting right in that window. So fast. But you can see the pace on this. Like, it looks like I'm being quite relentless. Like, it looks like I'm just coming forward with all of these strikes. But the pace of it is really relaxed. Like, I can actually keep doing this for many, many rounds. This is not exhausting. That's one of the secrets of being a very good female fighter, is like not exhausting yourself but staying active all the time. You can't just be like running away trying to save your breath. So there's no good. That's not the knee he wants. Look at how much he puts his foot to the outside. His leg becomes almost horizontal. Look what he's doing to my leg. It's like a kick, almost. It's like a chop. And then you can see on his belly pad that that has more like distinct, direct power. So that what I was just doing, I was like, you can't be tight. Like Kang in Thai is like strong, but it also means like hard. You don't want to be like super tight when you're throwing this, because it makes your power go in all weird directions. You want to be mostly relaxed and then just designate the area of your body that needs to be tense in order to make that work. I'm not stepping outside his stance, which doesn't allow my leg to come all the way around. So I'm kind of foreshortening my own knee by stepping too straight forward. I'm making a point here that like I couldn't figure out what to do with my hands. They were doing weird things. They were like coming down like robot arms. He doesn't do anything with his hands. Like, he doesn't even throw it the way you would throw it down for like a kick. His hands can do whatever the hell they want because his entire body is relaxed except for the one part he needs in order to make that knee come forward. That's what I'm talking about designating where in your body you have tension. It does not matter what his hands are doing. Like, his guard is completely unimportant. I use my guard to balance myself, which is fine. That's my style. But for what he's doing, he's so good at designating exactly where in his body the tension needs to be. The rest of it can be just completely, utterly relaxed. Look at how he steps. See how he's stepping outside my foot? He's like not directly towards the foot, because then you can only hit the outside of the body. He's like, the power's going that way. If you step to the outside of someone, your power comes through them. And if I try to move out of the way, he can actually like heat seeker missile follow me with it. He has a wider range, like it can go for farther, but he also has more places on my body he can hit. If he steps directly towards my foot, he can only hit the outside of my ribs. If he steps outside my body, he can hit me all the way across the width of my body. I loved this. He started sticking his foot out so that I had to step outside of it to like train me how to step outside of his stance. It's like such a perfect trick. And I'm feeling already that I'm like goom. In Thai they call it goom. It means to like slouch or crouch. And I could feel that my body was not upright. So when I was coming forward for my knees, because my hips were back, it wasn't firing through him. Whereas if you stand really upright, the power just swings through. I love that foot thing. Look at how much he turns my leg. Here's no good. I'm like hitting with the side of my knee. That's the top of it. He's showing how the power is not aligned correctly. Whereas if I really, really twist it and make it almost horizontal, it's like swinging an axe through someone, chopping the tree. Ah, he felt that. For sure. If you can hurt your trainer through the belly pad, you're doing your knees right. It's interesting when you're working with someone and you're watching their posture and you're feeling your own, like when you become aware of your own posture, and you can start to feel how the their body position is making so much of an impact on what they're able to do. This is like just watching and watching and watching the person you're learning from. You learn so much from your eyes. We like to make things really verbal in the West. We're like, explain that to me. But they may not even be aware of that kind of difference, but you can see it, and when you're aware of what you're doing, you can feel it. Like, you can feel that you're hunching and they're not, kind of thing. This is like semi-sparring now. He's so difficult to spar with. His timing is just perfect. See how he's showing the jab, jab, and set up for that stepping forward so that he can land the open side knee? He doesn't throw a lot of knees in his fights that I've seen of his. So see how he's kind of reaching out a little bit just to snuff my arms. He's using his gloves as pads, and he's like allowing little openings to get me to do the things that he wants, but he also can't help himself. He's using his hands to snuff my arms at a distance before I can really get my punches off. Right here, what he's teaching me is to step outside with my front leg on everything. Like, I'm just, with every single movement I make, slightly stepping out with my left. See how fast and like viper-like his right is? And because of that, he's able to throw that hook with his foot slightly already outside of me, because every step he takes is slightly outside. He's trying to lift my elbow a little bit on that hook so that it crashes down. Many, many trainers have made that correction to me. I think it's a very important point about the hook. It's a way to get around someone's guard, but it also allows the power to kind of come downward. So I was kind of twisting on my jab, and he's showing me how that's not good, because then you have to like reverse yourself. So stepping outside for the jab instead, you never have to recorrect, you never have to redirect. You're just always kind of slightly drifting in the correct direction to be able to land your power as an orthodox fighter. And if you're southpaw, you're always stepping outside with your right, so you're, again, setting up for your power side all the time. My foot was right in front of his back foot, which is why that knee kind of spun me out a little bit. See where my foot is? I'm landing with power, which is knocking him back, which is great. But if my left foot went slightly outside of his stance, I would be way more on balance and driving it through him much better. You can see that I like to put my weight on my front foot, and you can see the difference in what he's doing if you watch his feet all the time, these steps that he's taking and the bend in his knees. You can see how easily his weight stays in the middle every direction he moves in. It takes the pauses out of everything. See how he's off balance off of that knee? That's because of where my right foot was. It's the standing leg. If the standing leg is slightly outside of the stance of your opponent, you will always be on balance coming off of what you're doing. Oh, so pretty. It looks like he's throwing with absolutely no power. And again, he's not tense. He's not like putting a lot of effort into it. He does not have to put power in it. That accuracy sucks. He's making fun of my disbalance off of my strikes. He's pointing out that it's because of where my feet are. He wants me to kind of like step over. There you go. And then I don't have to like walk back into my stance. I can actually walk forward into my stance with the next strike. There, I cheated. I corrected myself with that little hop like a gymnast trying to stick it or whatever. That's fine, but if I'd stepped outside, I wouldn't have to do that correction. So I should be able to just throw that block up all the time, like with the width of my feet. And again, what he was showing me with the floating block, you can cross block. If your weight happens to be on the wrong leg, you can always just like cross. I'm trying to do that stepping outside with my front leg. The jab to elbow really teaches you how to use that like stepping out, because it's necessary for those two to work in conjunction with each other. So that's a really good set of strikes to use to like enforce that outside, outside, outside with your steps. And really you're like using your lead side to set up for your power side. What's cool about it is that if you're in like same stance, as you're messing with someone with your front side, you can get them to switch and create an open side on your power side. Again, he's southpaw, so he's standing not in his natural stance in order to play with me, and he's still much faster than me. He wants me to play with my shoulders. He literally, in Thai, says, play your shoulders. And what he means is this kind of like hiding your intention and strikes and rhythm like with your shoulders. I'm doing it just because he's telling me to. I don't really feel it yet, but I know what he's talking about. Like I can see it when he's doing it, and I can kind of like feel it if I just kind of feel it for a second. It's like, I don't know, it's almost like dancing. I'm bringing my leg just straight across to block him, and he taught me much earlier. It's the same as when you're throwing that knee. He actually wants my heel to come up. It's like I'm throwing a knee into his leg to block him. So now I'm trying to play my shoulders a little bit and step outside. I'm trying to like combine these little elements. How do you get out of someone catching your leg? He just wants me to slip out. I have never once had a trainer teach me something before that one as a way to escape the kick. That is the number one when someone catches your kick, is just continue on and slip out. There are alternatives, there are other things you can do, but that's always the first one that people go for. I'm struggling here because he wants me to slip it out and like donkey kick him. He does it with perfect balance. Watch him do it. He can even hit me and like leave his leg up. I couldn't figure out why I was so off balance and overturning. Like I knew I was overturning, but I didn't really feel it. It's because he keeps his shoulder open. So he catches my kick, and as I'm slipping my knee down and out, I need to keep that same side shoulder open. That way I can hit him or donkey kick him with power instead of basically like turning my back on him and trying to kick backwards. Here I'm throwing in a few like Namsak Noi slips where you like switch your stance and jab. He liked the first one I did, but now he's countering me with much more intense moves. I couldn't figure out why I wasn't quite reaching him. And it's because I wasn't stepping out. See how I just galloped in place? Like my feet stayed in the same position, and I was like on a treadmill. That's why my jab is not coming into him. If when I do my switch step, my foot goes outside of him, I'm actually galloping forward, which is the point. There, can't get him. There's a little better. I'm going to ask him why I can't quite reach him, because he's totally nailing me in the face. So he's saying if you step inside their stance, they can get away from you because you're too slow. If you step outside their stance, you can come across them, or you can, in their blind spot, throw that hook. There, I felt it. Totally felt the difference there. So you don't want to gallop sideways, and you don't want to gallop exactly in place. You want to basically be like rolling forward with it. It's so funny. 5 years ago, it was so frustrating and awful. I just got him in the face, so I win forever. I knew it was going to come back at me, though. It was like immediate retribution. The thing about sparring with him now, 5 years later, is that when he does something, I can steal it. Like, I can see what he did and try to do it back to him instead of, like, just being upset that he did some kind of magic trick on me that I can't counter. The important thing about all of these tricks that I think a lot of people miss when they're really into the femur style, they think that it's about keeping great distance, and that is not actually femur style. You make it feel to your opponent like you're way out of touch and that they can't get to you and you're like constantly slipping, but true femur style is not running away all the time. He's being super evasive at a super close range. Look at this. So he's batting my guard out of the way, but he can hit either my forearm, my shoulder, or grab behind my neck, just depending on what distance he's at. So I'm actually choosing the farther one while he's coming towards me. No. Because he's stepping towards me, I should actually be choosing the shorter ones, because it's like throwing a football to where someone's going to be rather than like just throwing it to where they currently are and then they run past it. Because he's coming towards me, I should be batting at his shoulder or grabbing his neck. If he wants to stay away from me, then I can bat at the front part of his guard as I step forward. But again, it's paying attention to what the rhythms and movements are. When going behind the neck, he does not grab my neck at all. He's just shoving my neck down with his forearm. Like that. I kind of grab it a little bit, which you don't need to do. It's a habit, because I like to grab for the clinch. He's just kind of like popping it down. If you want to watch in the Muay Thai Library, Ramba Somdet, he has a really good, he shows how you put your thumb down and like put your forearm behind someone's neck. See how Tak is being totally evasive? He's just like melting away from me and kind of like slipping and moving, but he's not, his feet actually don't take steps back very often. And if he does, he's taking like one and then firing a shot. So he's explaining something to me about your opponent has 2 arms and 2 legs. So you just have to worry about interrupting their arms and their legs. Like, you're both people, so you know that they can only punch or throw elbows. Like, you know what their arms can do and you know what their legs can do. So you basically just interrupt one in order to take it off the table, and so you know their only option is the other one, and then you know how to block that or counter that. This is very much like what Karahat taught me in the Sylvie study when we did an intensive with him, is that you need to be able to read what people's options are because you've taken one of them off the table. So here we're just doing a little bit of sparring, putting together all of the things that we've been working on prior to this, which is mainly cutting angles, like stepping outside of the opponent's stance, working your shoulders and rhythm and timing and moving. See how he's using a little bit of like slipping of his shoulders, but his feet aren't moving. He's showing me how I can slip to the side to get out of the way of his jab and fire an attack. The one I'm choosing is to like hook over the outstretched arm, but he's pointing out that you can actually insert a counter prior to the one that I'm choosing. It doesn't change the timing of the one that I'm doing at all. I'm already slipping to the side and throwing that throwing that hook. But because I'm slipping to the side, I can actually fire a kick while I'm slipping to the side. It's like how that head kick comes from just tick-tocking your head to the side. So you're basically inserting another strike in the space prior to the strike that I was getting to, and it doesn't change the timing or ability to do it at all. It's just like a bonus extra strike. The difficulty in this one is that you're firing your front leg from a standstill. So you're not doing what in Thai they call salap, which is where we call it a switch step in English. You're not doing a switch step. You're literally just switching your weight and throwing your front leg into their open side while they're punching. And then my balance is all off because I'm trying to just like throw my weight into it. I'm not tick-tocking to the side anymore. But he has a strike after it because he, again, like when the kick was caught, keeping your shoulder open so that you can fire a punch or do that donkey kick without being really off balance. See where his shoulder goes? He like throws that front kick and his shoulder is staying open so he can throw either his right cross or a left hook. He's showing how my arm is like coming down in front of me so I can't throw anything. It's the same as how you would like throw your arm behind you to get more torque on your kick, to open the shoulder, and then you can throw the punch after it. I'm totally having a hard time doing this. I think because I'm leaning back too much.
Forget the hand because you know you can move. You know you can.
Look at how fast he moves.
Don't worry about my hand.
See how I'm leaning back? That's why I can't throw the punch afterwards. I have to like reverse my direction in order to get the punch to come. He stays really upright, so when the kick goes, his shoulder is just open and he can fire that punch. Oh, my knee landed, but because he did that reverse elbow, I definitely in a fight got hit by that reverse elbow, and I think that wins out of the two. Oh, yes. See how it's like each thing is just leading to the next thing without like rushing through it? I'm trying to get my like pace together with him. He's much faster than me, so if I try to rush, he's still going to be faster than me, and I'm going to be rushing my own timing. So I need to stay on my own timing and kind of interrupt his rhythm at the same time. The way to do that is to kind of stay outside of his stance and keep annoying him on my way in. The mistake I'm making here is that I've kind of devolved back to my my level. I'm not Yod Muay, but when I'm trying to come in on him, I'm basically trying to use rhythm to like hide my timing of when I'm going to throw a power strike. He doesn't do that. He interrupts with like little strikes on the way in to keep me thinking or busy or off balance or righting myself. That's why you can come forward without like breaking pace and loading up. He's showing me here how you can like parry someone's guard. You can parry their arm, or you can parry their shoulder, or you can parry their neck. See how I'm like trying to like work my way in for one strike? No. This is any style. This is not Femur, this is not Muay Khao, this is not Muay Book, this is not any particular style. This is all styles. You basically need to be giving your opponent something to do while you're setting up for the strikes that you really want to be landing. This is good. I'm like staying in. I'm not coming forward or going backwards, but I'm kind of more flexible, which is good. Now he's making a point about what I was just talking about. He's like, you have to go high and low because your opponent is going to be too confused. You don't just stay all at one level because they can just block. If you kick their leg, then you come up. If you punch them in the face, then you go low. Like, you're basically creating this division of their own mind trying to track where they're getting hit. You divide their body in their own head so that you can land what you want to land. If you stay all at one place, it's easy for them to track where you're going to be or what you're doing.
Feel like what I was talking about in the voiceover last night.
I could feel how that, like, the tick-tock of kicking the head that he showed me earlier, that's the same just rocking that you do if you want to throw the lead leg kick. Basically just slip out of the way and the leg comes up. It's like a rock over.
The invisibility cloak of relaxation.
I'm trying to feel the rhythms that he's talking about. You can't take someone else's rhythm. Like, you can't basically imitate someone else's dance moves. You have to be on the same beat. Like, you have to have your own rhythm. So I can do what he's talking about. I can play my shoulders. I can, like, kind of keep my weight in the center and, like, fake and things like this. But it's got to be on my own timing. And he's trying to get me to do that. So he's moving into clinch, which this is one of my favorite things that we worked on. He's not a clinch fighter. I'm sure he doesn't like clinching. But his timing is just incredible and is so good. If you are a clinch fighter, integrating this kind of timing so that you're not just using power all the time is just beautiful. He even takes disadvantageous positions, but because he can pull and push from those positions, it doesn't matter whether his arms are inside or outside.
ใช่คือสิบเวทต้องรอก่อน
So I'm double outside. This is not a great position for me, but I can steer him from that double outside
ใช่
แต่ว่า
only because I'm using timing. You don't want to stay there. You want to basically have that position and move him quickly.
อันนี้ดีกว่า
So I had made a mistake of which knee I was throwing. I threw to the closed side, which is like just hitting a bad target. So he's making corrections about when you do the turn, how to set up for your power side.
You need to do this because they don't bring either leg back.
He just doesn't. He pulls to his body.
เขาตัดโยดูแล้ว
He said that didn't work because he knew. He's like, I know what you're going to do, so I like shift my body so that it won't quite work. You'll find yourself in this position a lot while training in Thailand. You won't find yourself in this position in fights that much. People tend to grab a lot closer. But if you can learn this timing, that's on the way in. So while you're clinching with training partners, getting the timing right so that this very temporary position of when you lock like this, if you can already turn them, you're like way ahead timing wise in a fight because it's a ephemeral position in a fight, but you can do something within that very short window. I could feel that I was like gooming, like I was all hunched over, which is why my knees wouldn't even reach him. If I'm upright, my knees have a much greater length to them.
ใช่ข้างนอกตรง
So see how I'm locking into the insides of his elbows? He's showing me that from that position, you basically push and pull and turn. Like you're doing kind of like popping and locking within clinching.
อันนี้ได้
And then I can throw elbows and things from that longer position.
เซ็งอันนี้เอเบิลได้
So I'm locking his arm out from the inside, on the insides of his elbows. So while he's trying to grab behind my neck, I can lock him out and kind of steer him. You do not use power in this position. You're basically just steering a giant wheel,
It's like car
and you want to use timing to make dramatic turns and off balances from that position. So this is while someone's coming to grab you. Temporary position, you can totally lock them out and do these moves and turns. This is one of my favorite things that he does. He is on the outside, and as he's swimming inside, he pulls you. So you're like, he's like hyperextending your weight coming forward as he's stepping back. Jesus. It makes you like hurl into his knee, like you're falling into his knee.
ไม่ใช่
The movement he does with his hand, he just spins. Like he just spins his hand in and then over. It's like when someone's taking your wraps off and you're just kind of spinning your hand to let it like unravel. Like that. That's what I was saying.
ดีกว่าไหม
I couldn't quite feel it. Like I could feel the hand coming out, but I couldn't get the like
อ่า
soft and then jerk at the very end of it. Like I couldn't get the grip on the very end of it, which his actually comes from how his feet are stepping back, and then he just kind of like punctuates what his hand is doing. He's not actually changing his grip very much. It's just like a little he's just firming his hand at the very end while his foot is coming back. See how he steps back at the same time? Watch his foot, and then believe me that he's like jerking his hand at the very end of it. But watch his feet. His feet are showing how he's creating that distance and then just yanking down at the last second. There we go. That was almost it.
บ้านเนี้ยดึงด้วย
Oh my god.
The best part. It's the best part.
I'm not faking that. I'm totally being thrown around by like him barely moving his hand. And you can come to the neck instead. Like if you're having trouble with the hand, you can jerk the neck down instead. There we go. But his weight is like hurling forward.
ใช่
go lose balance take one more
ใช่
So it's showing me how it's not a like slow pullback. It has to have this like punctuated end to it. My feet aren't working in conjunction with that little jerk down at the end.
We have had your, they won't leave, see?
So many things are going on. I'm timing it with him, so it's timing how he's stepping. That's why he's marching forward with me like that. And then as I'm just kind of slipping out of the way, then I can jerk him down to overemphasize the direction he's already going in. It's like if someone's leaning to the right and you jerk him to the right, they're going to spin. Because he's already coming forward, I'm just forcing him forward faster than he should be going. It's like tripping him forward. Here he's teaching me, basically you push off and pull. So it's like a jerk. And as you pull them towards you, you can throw the knee or you can twist them to the side. But basically by pushing them first, they tense up, which makes them much easier to pull. It's like you're forcing tension into their body, and it makes them all one piece, and it makes them much more easy to move. I really like this. I've been doing this in my own training, and it works against everybody.
Twist that.
Again, you want to use this with timing. Like you can really shove and pull someone when they're on one leg, but you don't have to. It's very whiplashy though. Basically, you don't want them to be like in a super solid position, but you're kind of shaking them loose anyway. See how he turns. So he pushes forward, and as he yanks me back towards him, he's pulling me to the side to like angle me. And then once you get that rhythm down with the push-pull, he's stepping back as he's pulling in order to create space for that knee so he can land like a killer knee. Almost. There I got the pull on it, but I'm not stepping my leg back, so the knee that I was able to land off of it is not very powerful. It's all these little pieces that like they start to come together. He's making fun of my knee. I didn't angle my knee, so whatever I was hitting him with, that like straight up marching knee just has no power on it. It's like setting up dominoes for your like once you flick it and it all like goes together. You have to work on the spacing between things a little bit to make it super efficient.
One.
From Ghana.
One.
There we go. So I'm shoving him as my leg comes back, and then when I pull him, my leg is already back, so I'm able to throw the knee while I'm pulling him.
I mean, because when like this, your body is
not
close.
like that. Because your body's already close. If your body's too close, you have no power. You have to create that space, and you can do that by just stepping your leg back. There we go.
Now come back. Same before when you knee. Straight.
So he's actually telling me knee me the way you did before, like where you're all goomed up. And I couldn't even recreate how bad it was. So, but he's showing me the difference between creating the space and not. Oh. See how I can fire little interruptions while he's coming in? Like, it doesn't have to all be, I slammed you with this like amazing huge shot. Just punching him in the body while he's trying to knee throws him off balance a little bit, and it can set up. He's making himself short like me. He's saying, I'm same. So he's making himself short so that I can feel what someone my own height would be like, but he's still faster than me. See how his timing and his high-low, we're the same height now, but while I'm coming to punch, he knows what my hands are doing, so he's just firing shots underneath it. That's what he's talking about this high-low, and that's what he was talking about when he's like, your opponent has 2 arms, you have 2 arms, they have 2 legs, you have 2 legs. If they're firing their arm, you know what's open already. Like, you don't have to think, what can I throw? The minute you feel or see hands coming, you know everything below it is open. And if you see someone kicking, you know they're on one leg, and then you can fire these other things. It's like how when you become fluent in reading a language, you actually don't have to sound out and then You just see the shapes of and then, and you like read it much faster. He's reading shapes. He's actually able to tag me because I'm putting all my weight on one side, which is what he does not do.
กลับมา
He wants me to remember I gotta pull my shoulder back.
สบายสบายสบายอ่ะ twist it when they want push push lose balance
So if you can't slip your leg out,
สบายสบาย
see how he straightens his leg and then he just kind of like wiggles it and twists it to like kick me off of him. So that's if you can't slip out. Again, the slip out is always number one when people teach me. But if you can't slip out, you just kind of like fish wriggle your shin, and you can actually hurt people with it and kind of shake them off of you with it. See how I can't get to him because he straightened his leg? He's keeping me at a distance by like wiggling it. That's a little bit like the shake in the clinch, how you like push pull. If someone is holding your shin and you start like shaking it, you're kind of like juggling them, like off balancing them so they can't land their sweep or whatever they're trying to do. Look at his feet. See how he's like using the rhythm in his upper body so that I don't know what his timing is, but he's not really doing anything with his feet until he's ready to actually move. My feet, on the other hand, are always like up and down. So because I'm on one foot or the other, it limits where I'm able to move at any given moment. He can move anywhere at any given moment because he only moves when he's ready to go. You can have rhythm in like different parts of your body. You don't all have to be like Tak. That's not the point. The point is to see the diversity of how people move. He's very much like Samart in that he doesn't move his feet unless he has to. And here he's showing me how you can switch stance. You can just move forward and backward and fire from any direction.
This is basic when you stay
It's like the queen on a chessboard. You can go anywhere, any direction.
เดียวเดินมา come เห็นไหม
So see how as I'm coming forward, he takes a step back to switch his stance and immediately fires his front leg.
basic ไป
He likes switching stance fighting.
ไป left back
I was having a really hard time because
ขวา
stepping back and then firing the leg that stepped back works for me because it's like a reversal of the weight. Stepping back and firing that front leg was really hard. Look at how he flicks his leg in order to keep his balance when he does that.
the leg stay
This is a really good drill. Like this is something that you can do in shadow. You don't need a training partner to work on this. And it makes you very symmetrical and it really helps with your balance. So basically you take a step back and fire the front leg,
ไม่ได้
then take a step back and fire the front leg, and you're basically marching.
เอาไป
Almost all of us can do it walking forward, but going backwards is very hard.
แรงเนี่ยใช่
So he's making a point here about when I step back, I have to step back.
ไปกลับไป
So when I'm coming forward, remember I'm stepping outside his stance. When I'm stepping back, I have to step outside of my stance.
สบาย
It's the same thing. See how he steps wide? He's not stepping directly back in line. If you step directly back, you have no power as your front leg is coming up. You have to step out like a skater a little bit.
stay
Yeah.
Oh.
don't need
Kind of relaxed
too much
and pretty.
but if step to kick yes we need
He's like, if you're stepping forward, it's okay to go up on your toe. But when you're stepping backwards, don't go up on your toe.
ดู
My feet are just getting in line with each other. Like I cannot get this like stepping out to the side thing.
อ่า
There's a little bit. So he just turns it into a drill, like just walk forward and backward.
คิกปั๊บแล้วก็ back แล้วก็
This is how you learn this.
done it again okay do forward
Yeah.
ดูเลย
Like walking.
ใช่
So he doesn't want me to stop. Like basically every step is leading to the next
ไป
kick.
ไป
Going forward,
ไป
no problem. Backwards, this is quite hard.
มามา
But see how by not letting me set up between each one, by having to fire the kick with every step, it's forcing me to step wider. Like, by forcing me to do something so uncomfortable, it actually calibrated my balance.
ปึ๊บปึ๊บไปเลยทิ้งไปเอา back ปั๊บปึ๊บ
Wide,
ปึ๊บ
wide, wide. Almost. my steps became shorter and shorter, and I was like never going to make it back to the rope.
มันไม่คลิกคลิกเลย
So I lost track of which foot was where. It's the front one. See how I'm stepping behind my foot? That's why I can't do it. It forces me to turn too much. There's a really beautiful session with the late Andy Thompson where he runs me through a bunch of drills like this in the Muay Thai Library. He's teaching balance.
We have a long time,
And
but
you can get really good ideas from that patron session about how to train balance and symmetry and ambidextrousness through those kinds of drills. Andy Thompson.
follow.
So he's saying this is basic walking, like baby.
Because we look past, every people past the thing about this.
Tak was saying that way back in the day, everyone trained like this. They didn't think about it. It wasn't like a special skill. Like, this is how you trained, as everything was very symmetrical and balanced.
เหมือนกันมี next round do like this
It's a really good idea because you actually never know where you're going to land off of strikes.
because we step back we need leg back
So now he's having me do it with knees, which, for whatever reason, I was way more comfortable doing. So
like that yeah
this one, because I'm not firing my front leg, you take the step back and you fire with the leg that came back. This is really, really good. Karahat, again, he's in the Muay Thai Library. He teaches me when someone's stepping towards you, you can melt away from them and then fire that knee as they're coming close. So it's the same as this drill, but it's really good to be able to take a single step back and fire with your front leg, which is what Tak was working with me on in the kick, or with your back leg with this knee. Basically, you're able to strike moving forward and backward, and then you can pivot off to the sides to make yourself just completely three-dimensional.
turn
But this forces you to learn how to have balance
นี่
in your strikes as well. He likes these knees because I'm actually
มาแล้ว
putting the angle the way that they're supposed to be.
เอา twist มา
You can see how there's like a double impact if someone is coming towards you and you're able to take that step and fire the knee. They're basically like walking into it.
ซ้าย
He's catching my leg and twisting it, forcing a greater angle of the foot being outside my hip. So he's like making my knees more horizontal as I'm coming.
ยกเลยไปกลับไปยกกลับยก
This is really beautiful to do after training when you're already kind of tired. Fixing balance and symmetry while you're already tired, really good.
ซ้ายสุดแล้วขวาตรงนี้
He likes my left leg. He says that my right leg's not quite as good. I think it's because I'm actually right-handed, so like my standing leg is really strong. So when my left leg goes, I can balance really well.
every time
But I'm not as strong on my left side, so my right leg doesn't come quite at the angle that it should because it's not supported by as strong of a standing leg.
ใช่ because come from shoulder see
Oh.
that see that is nothing but if
He's showing the twist on his knuckles, how it just like rolls.
twist
It can be so fast, but the impact is an acceleration at the very end.
น้ำตาไหล cry
He says it makes people's eyes water when you like punch them in the eyes and twist down like that.
อย่าไป
So I got the angle on that one for sure. I felt it. If you watch my feet, you'll know whether I got power on it or not. See how I keep stepping like right on his feet? I have in my head to step outside, but I just haven't quite like worked out the actual feeling of it yet. That's why you need to drill this stuff, not quite in the marching way that we just did, but you need to think to yourself, always be going outside to get the feeling for it. Body punch while I'm kneeing. It's really good.
because when they come to you, you just step first here
Oh, I did not understand this while he was showing it to me, but it's so cool. So basically, he's taking a step back, right? But then on his next step back, he's stepping out to set up for that left hook to the body. I didn't step out on my second step. I missed that part while we were actually working on it. Oh, because they have their guard up, so they're completely open down below, and you can just throw that hook. But he's doing a like step back, and the second step, because he's coming out, is setting up for that hook.
ใช่เหมือนกันเหมือนกันซ้ายขวาปักปัก
ใช่ไหม
ใช่
So I'm pulling back in that lead hook as I step back as he's coming forward. I really like that one.
ปัก
I understood the step back, but I wasn't putting my left foot outside in order to be able to land that left hook.
Where
Yeah.
when you get good balance, you can do strong.
He's saying that having strength in your balance is super important. It allows you to be able to throw anything from wherever you are. Look at him move. So cool. You can see his whole style, even in just the way that he's like pacing around the ring.
When they come อันนี้เนี่ยใช่ they come to ปัก
And because if you step back for that hook and your foot is outside, you're already ready to throw that knee. Going a little bit high-low with my hands there. He totally did a like overhand and uppercut at the same time.
now tip tip can use ทิปขา
See where his head is while he's teeping?
ทิปแบบไหนให้เจ็บ
He keeps his head forward so that his weight is like really balanced and pushing me back.
what you do
He's gonna teach me this fucking
ดู
awful
นะ
teep.
เอา
He's not the first person to teach this to me, but he might be the best at it of the people who taught it to me.
Yeah.
You actually like curl your toes and dig your toes into someone's freaking lower abdomen.
ladies more pain นะ
It hurts so bad.
it's not foul
ใช่
He's like, it's not a foul.
yeah
He put his toes between two of my ribs,
ใช่
and then he also did it in my stomach muscles, and he also did it on the side. Like, there's no way to make that not hurt. There's nothing you can do to make it not hurt.
กลับมาอันนี้ใช่ไหมไม่เอาอันนี้นะเอาแบบนี้เออ
So this is what I didn't understand the previous times that I've learned this, but I did understand finally when Tak was teaching me. You're not, I'll show it later, but you're not pointing your toes and like digging your toes in like this. To me, that feels like you're gonna break your toes. You're kind of like curling them, like making a claw out of your foot.
Perfectly accurate.
He just stuck his big toe like right between my ribs. It even hurts on the leg. Like, it doesn't matter where you're doing it. If you claw the toes and go like that, so the foot's kind of at an angle. Oh, so painful.
เอาเอา
And you don't have to do it hard.
ตึงอ่ะตึงใช่
Like, how hard do you have to stab someone for it to hurt? It's so awful.
you that have perfect block one two but they you understand the punch come to attack me come
So he's showing all the different levels, right? So as they're coming to try to punch you, you can teep the leg, or you can kind of feint off to the side and teep the body. He's saying that even from really, really close, you can teep the neck. See how I'm up against the ropes? I'm like getting into the corner. I think that I'm getting away from him. And then he's like, as someone's coming towards you, you just teep them in the neck. It's so nasty. So I think there's no way he can teep me from there, right? He just leans against the ropes to create a little bit more space.
It's horrible.
Oh, that would kill. It's totally like throat punching someone or like throat jabbing someone.
same push like here to there same
Oh.
or there
See how I like faint away from him because it's so painful no matter how hard he's doing it? I just don't want to receive it at all.
up to you with your idea
He's like, it's up to you. Like, as someone's trying to come towards you, it's up to you what level you want to do it, but just use this kind of like stabbing to keep people off you. It's like juggling.
check first check
Oh, it's like when you're on a motorcycle and the rain is stinging you or something. It's like, why does that hurt so bad?
ทำไมไม่เจ็บเอง
So here I'm asking him, I'm like, how come you're not hurting your toes? Because I'm doing it like this. Like I'm doing it with my toes straight forward. And this is when I understood that you curl them and kind of go at an angle. There we go.
See how his foot is like.
Look how awful that is.
Yeah. But he's not pointing it. It's like this, and the toes.
So he's
are
not
curled
pointing
forward.
his toes, he's curling his
Yeah,
toes.
It's like this instead of like
Like that, not that.
Ah.
Ah, there we go. Not breaking my toes, I can do that.
Don't even-
Oh! You can tell by your partner's face whether you're doing it correctly or not. It's so awful.
Please keep by. Pop. 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 Again. Pop. Pop. Pop.
See how he can block on either side and just float that leg? Like he can stay perfectly still. He doesn't. He moves around quite a lot, but he's not moving around aimlessly. Like he can stay exactly where he is, completely balanced, and just fire all these other things because he's so balanced. Oh. Blocking someone and then fucking stabbing them with your toes. Nasty. So he's having me block and then kick the standing leg. I really like this. You can do this really easily. Like you don't have to train that up a whole lot to use it in a fight. It's pretty immediately accessible. And see how I'm just standing there? Like I don't have to like change a bunch of angles in order to be able to do that.
So am I.
Oh, he has a very beautiful style. His ability to kind of like maintain what it is that he does under any kind of fighter, like whether they're coming forward or whether they like to go backwards or whether they have power. Like he basically knows how to nullify so that he can maintain what it is that he wants to be doing all the time. It's beautiful. So I'm like, a lot of Westerners come to Thailand and they just try to throw as hard as they possibly can, but if you have rhythm and timing, their power doesn't matter. You're just kind of keeping them off of you and off balance all the time. He's like, Thais really like it when they find out that a Westerner they're fighting only has hands, because then you know everything else that you can do, because like they're only going to be throwing their hands and you know where their weight is going to be all the time. So the most difficult fighters to fight for him are the ones who are super versatile, because they can change what they're doing all the time.
Like, look at Jean.
Jean Europe.